Welcome to Interior Analysis. I'm Evan Westman.
I'm Jelani Kelly.
And today we are talking about Good Will Hunting, directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I think I'm going to start crediting the people at the start. Might try to get in that habit. So Good Will Hunting is about Matt Damon going around to a bunch of thrift stores and trying to find some really good deals. And then Robin Williams comes up a little bit, helps him find some of those. So
Really,
I had to. Sorry. It was a low-hanging fruit. I'm sorry about that.
No, I didn't think of that.
So this was your first time seeing it, and I know I've hyped this up a little bit for you. I hope I didn't overhype it, but first of all, did you enjoy it?
You aren't the only one to overhype it. I've been hearing about this movie for years. I can't believe it's my first time seeing it. Yeah, it's not something I rewatch consistently or frequently, but yeah, it was good.
Would you rewatch it at all?
Yeah, sure. Not on my own time. It'd have to be for a reason.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you would like it. You know, it's not really your genre, but like, I was hoping you would.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really expecting you to like love it. So what did you know about it beforehand? Also,
I didn't. I just knew Robin Williams was in this and Matt Damon was in this.
That's it?
Yeah, what is the title like a phrase? Is Good Will Hunting a phrase of some sort? Because if it's not a phrase, they just named it like why Good Will Hunting? Like, is it supposed to be like a pun? Because I don't know.
It's kind of a play on words, I guess. Because, like, it's his name and, like, hunting for goodwill. I don't think it's a saying, but I think they're trying to do a little bit of wordplay with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hence the pun at the beginning.
Okay, so if I'm just gonna say if it wasn't a pun, it's strange to have your main character just not have like the title of the thing, but like have the adjective good before the main character's name, like good Forrest Gump or good Spider-Man. That'd be strange, but okay.
I mean, better than bad Forrest Gump, I guess.
Sure. Or mediocre Forrest Gump.
Yeah. So there is one thing that I know of that you have at least been exposed to related to this movie. I was not sure if you would pick up on it, but there is an episode of Community, I think it's the season 1 finale, that kind of satirizes a couple moments from this. Because there's the thing where Troy goes and fixes the water fountain that none of the other janitors can fix.
Oh.
And like it's before. Yeah. And then later in that episode, after he's like getting recruited for the janitorial school, Abed has like the speech that Chucky gives to Will. He's like, Troy, you know what the best part of my day is? It's when I go to your door and like I hope you won't be there. And Troy's like, what the hell? Like, your favorite part of the day is when you think I'm not gonna show up.
That makes it so much better now. I didn't understand that. There's so many references I have yet to understand in Community, but
yeah, I caught that one right away, but I was wondering like if you like could it work the other way? Because, like, if you know it, like, the next time you watch that episode, you're going to catch it right away.
I just thought it was funny how the janitors were acting with Troy fixing the freaking water fountain. That was just funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah, but, like, it'll hit differently once you see the reference next time. Because I remember catching that, like, almost immediately when I saw that episode. But I was wondering if you would, like, see the other way around with it. There's probably a lot of references like that in Community that I haven't caught either. But... So why don't we get into some of your initial reactions? And also, like, if you want to talk about Lambeau or, like, the whole conflict and theme around, like, what Will wants to do with his future, this might be a good time to do that, too. I don't know if that was something you wanted to talk about, but, like, I didn't make time for that with topics, but, like, they're both really important, so I want to allow time for that if you want to.
The guy is named after the slang for a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I don't think it's spelt the same way.
I
it's
know.
like Lambeau, like French kind of.
Mr. Lambeau. Yes. when I first heard it, and then I had to look at the spelling, I was like, eh, hmm. I was really just asking a lot of questions, and then it got to a point. There's like a huge gap between like the beginning of the movie and then I make a note with the scene with Will finally broke down, and then I just made a note that Sean was the best character at the end of the movie, because I just got to a point where I was just watching the movie instead of trying to make notes. I normally do that in the beginning, at least. The beginning has the most notes, but I kind of just started watching once I got to a certain point. So I was wondering where Robin Williams was. I thought he was in it. At the beginning, I saw his name in the credits. I was like, wait, the professor is not Robin Williams, so where's Robin Williams? And then once he said he's going to find a therapist, I was like, oh, so Robin Williams is going to be a therapist, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, too, because in the script, they have a couple scenes earlier where it's just like Sean chilling in his house or like maybe at the community college he works at. And those get cut, but which I think was good, but maybe part of it was because like I don't know how early they got Robin Williams attached, but I think they wanted that role to be like a bigger actor. So they might have been anticipating people reacting the way you did with like, oh, I saw this guy on the poster, when's he gonna show up? Like
Then I got 2 points. So far I didn't care or connect to any of the characters. Only character I connected to by the end was Sean, so we'll get into that. At 15:58, there's a black guy. I just wanted to point that out. There's also a black guy in the quartet. But I can't imagine Boston in whenever this was set or filmed, so I'm guessing the 90s because the judge was talking about 92, 93. It was also made in 97 when I was born. Had a whole lot of diversity, so yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's probably less diverse than Boston really is. I don't know the demographics, but I think it's probably pretty safe to say that Boston isn't as white as we see it in this movie.
Well, at least it's not as bad as Friends. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this scene. Oh, I wrote down the line when he walked up to that guy after the bar scene in the diner. He said, "Do you like apples?" He said, "Yeah." "Yeah? Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?" Bro. Come on, bro. What?
You don't like it?
Evan, I face palmed after he said that, bro. Come on, man.
I get it. It's a little bit cringy, but it's like, it's kind of fun.
You like apples? How do you like them apples? That was so cringy. I couldn't help but smile.
I don't know if it's meant to be cringy or not. I think it's not.
No, I don't think it is. I think it was meant to be a oh snap moment, but no.
Want some ice for that burn?
Yeah, no. Then I did make a note. Oh wait, is Robin Williams gonna be the therapist? Yay. And then Robin Williams popped up. Just let's go. And then the last note I made before I just started watching the movie was Indian dots, not feathers. Come on, bro.
Yeah, that didn't
age there. Even in the 90s, like, people weren't woke like that. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, I can't speak to how it was in the 90s, but that line does not age well for the 21st century at all.
Not in the slightest. But those are my initial impressions, and then we'll get into it. So,
yeah, I do want to touch on, though, like, the way you're saying you were just kind of watching it at one point. Like, yeah. I think that was... I didn't obviously watch this the first couple times, like, to analyze it, but I think that is kind of, like, the better, like, that's how it hits best, is, like, it's not necessarily impressing you, but it, like...
It kept my attention.
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps your attention, but not in, like, a flashy way. You're not like, oh, God, what's going to happen next? But you're, like, here for what's going to happen next. That's the impression I get, anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Were those all your reactions?
Yep.
If you want to talk about Lambo or like the stuff around him at any point, like I want to allow time for that, but that won't be a topic from me.
Nah, pretty straightforward guy, his motivations and all that, and I understood why he was doing what he was trying to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a well constructed character. I just like there's so many things this movie does well, and I wanted to give time to other things rather than him. But I think he is a really well constructed character. First topic is Will, and mostly I want to focus on his wounds and his defense mechanisms. The way that we see his wounds, like without knowing that many details, I think is done really well. We don't really get any information about like or any indication at all that he had like abuse in his past or like a rough childhood at all until I think it's mentioned in his trial, and that's the first time we hear about it. And then it doesn't really come up again until like later with Sean and like the fight with Skylar. And even the information we get at the end is like pretty minimal, I feel like, if we're talking like I wouldn't call it a full-on backstory. It's good that we still feel it throughout, I think, like, and not necessarily in that we're like, oh, this is like a really broken person, but we see his like him being evasive with like when Skylar's like, oh, I want to meet your brothers. He's like, let's not. Like it's clearly like a sore spot for him that he's just kind of avoiding. And we see him like he picks fights with people. He picks the one literal fight, and then the scene in the bar where he doesn't really initiate that fight, but he definitely approaches that like takedown of the Harvard guy like a fight.
Steps in between them.
Yeah. I do love that scene, but like it is kind of a fight scene.
I didn't understand what either one of them are saying, but I knew Will was winning, so that's good.
Yeah. Well, I think like from their perspective, that's kind of the point. They're like flexing their history knowledge on each other.
There's a bunch of big words in there.
Some Marxian historian theory. Sorry, I'm going to be doing a Matt Damon impression this whole podcast. Might be a little bit of swearing for a language warning. I love Matt Damon in this so much. But yeah, then with like all the shrinks too, he's like both the couple ones that we just get one scene with, and then with Sean, he's immediately trying to get under their skin when he's going into those conversations. He's looking around for like, all right, what's going to push their buttons?
And in turn, that got under my skin. I mean, I guess he did a good job at evoking emotion, but he was an ass. So
Who, Will?
Yeah. I didn't care for him as a character, and we'll get into that once you're done making points.
No, let's go ahead and get into it now.
Like, yeah, he had a rough background, and the only part that got me was the "it's not your fault" scene. That caught me way off guard. I was like, wait, I'm not supposed to be feeling emotion from this. What the hell is this? But other than that, I didn't really care for him. And I think that "it's not your fault" scene was really like more Robin Williams than anything. But then, Matt Damon had that really great reaction. I was like, that's an appropriate reaction to that. Mm-hmm. And he just kept messing up so often and like pissing me off as a watcher that like I kind of checked out of trying to root for him and all that as the main character. Like with the therapist and then messing up with Skylar. I mean, I kind of get that was the point, but
he's a frustrating character.
Yeah, not showing up for interviews as well, letting his friends show up is like a big prank or joke. Like, yeah, I know he kind of made up for it in the end, but in my eyes, he's still a jerk. Also, is he autistic?
I don't believe so. I mean, he's certainly like got some like emotional stunting, but I mean, I don't really know enough about what being autistic means, and I feel like from what I've heard, it's a really big bucket of like spectrum. What qualifies. Yeah, big spectrum.
So, only reason I'm asking is because one of my screenwriting professors told me people who have photographic memories tend to be autistic. And I tried to create a character for one of my stories that had a photographic memory, and that's what he told me. That was his response to me.
Did he explain why?
I don't remember.
I don't know if Will is autistic. I would expect that if we asked Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, I kind of think they would say no. But I mean, I guess it's possible. Like he certainly has some kind of like something you could diagnose. I don't know what it would be exactly, though.
A superhero origin past.
I mean, I wouldn't call it that, but,
Yeah.
you know, if you want to.
An orphan who was abused.
Yeah.
Yeah. Superhero.
I mean, no, there's a reason, like, it sounds like that, though, because, like, how many of the most iconic characters that we have are orphans? It's a very good go-to, like, emotional wound to give people. Like, Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter,
Spider-Man, Batman.
Spider-Man. Yeah, all orphans. And even other ones, like, maybe only have one parent in the picture, or their parents are
Disney movies.
gone to some degree. Disney movies, yeah, like Nemo only has one
Ariel
parent.
from The Little Mermaid. Where's her mother? Oh yeah, dead. Probably.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do they ever talk about her?
I don't know that gets mentioned.
Simba.
But yeah, she does seem to have Simba. Yep.
His father gets clapped.
Yeah, I don't know if Simba's mom is ever mentioned either. Like,
No, isn't Sarabi his mom? Sarabi's his mom.
I don't even know who that is. I'm not super familiar with Lion King.
Evan.
But yeah, I mean, he has parent issues. Like, Mufasa's death is, like, pretty traumatic for him. Like, that's
It's traumatic for every child when watching that movie. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
they normally don't show. They normally just say like, "Oh, my mother is dead" or "My father's dead." They showed his death without like blood or anything, but he fell and got trampled.
Yeah,
that was a kids movie.
Yeah, gravity is like such the enemy in every animated movie.
Pretty
ever.
Much.
Mostly for villains, but also occasionally for protagonists.
Long live the king.
Indeed.
Orphans.
Yeah, orphans. To that point, like, you know, Will is at a point where he's like, I think if you didn't know better, you would just assume for the first little while that he's just like moved out.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't mention his parents ever, so you might be like, huh, well, maybe, like, are they going to come up? But, you know, he's 20, so it's not, like, that big of a stretch that he would... And, you know, he's got a job. He's, like, paying for his own house.
Casual underage drinking.
Yeah, very casual underage drinking. But, you know, Irish bars in Boston, I feel like, have a reputation for that.
Oof.
Yeah, at least from what I've heard. To kind of, like... tie back to, I think we kind of mentioned this, but like this was something I kind of thought of while I was doing it. Maybe it's obvious, but it felt like kind of a big revelation for me. Was like, I think a character's past doesn't really matter unless it is reflected by their actions in the present. So would you agree with that, or like modify it at all?
No, I agree. That's really, I mean, it should be kind of obvious, but I think it's good you're stating it. Like, that's the whole point of creating a backstory. You have to wonder why the character is the way they are now, especially if they're like, they have like a presence on screen or on the page or whatever medium it is. Like, what if Darth Vader grew up with both parents and never got in any trouble and got like straight space A's, but turned out to still be Darth Vader? That doesn't make much sense now, does it?
Yeah, if the whole prequel trilogy was just, like, I know those are kind of controversial and not thought of as the greatest, but, like, it at least, like, when you're watching Hayden Christensen, you're like, yeah, I can see this guy becoming a genocidal maniac.
Right. Like, what if the prequels still happened, but Obi-Wan turned out to be Darth Vader? Like, that wouldn't make much sense either, now would it?
I mean, that's breaking a lot of other things, but yeah. Yeah, it is. Like, you need... Yeah. He had the high ground, and he's like, damn, I can do anything now.
Can you imagine in the Empire Strikes Back, he says, I am your father's friend.
Yeah, that would hit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the character I was thinking about with it, like, I mean, I know I go to this as a good example all the time, but I think Cobb in Inception is a good example. Like, we don't learn his past really until the end. It's kind of a gradual reveal, but prior to that point, we see Maul, like his projection of Maul, causing all sorts of problems in the dream, and then like the train comes through the first level. It's like he's clearly not stable, but we don't have to know why to be compelled by, or even just to understand, like, he's a broken person. We see it, and like it's grounded when we find out why. The other example I was thinking of is like I just finished the Boondocks recently, and
The TV
I
show?
was thinking about yeah.
Oh, wait, we got to
Um,
add that to the list. Wait, should we?
I'm good with it. I enjoyed most of it. I was just rewatching the Christmas one a couple nights ago.
That was one of
That's
my
like one of my
favorites.
favorite ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really fun.
I really wanted to see that damn play.
I really want to see the play too.
It's like that's like the what's in the briefcase thing.
The other parts of it too, with Riley sabotaging the mall Santas, is
Oh my
like really
God.
fun. And Jasmine, Christmas is about Santa coming down and dying for our gifts. That was like, she doesn't show up a lot, but I think that might be my favorite episode with her.
Yeah.
Santa's got to pay what he owes. But anyway, back to what I was saying. What was it? Yeah, the contrast I was thinking of with that show is like the backstory we get for Granddad versus what we get for Uncle Ruckus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like all the flashbacks
Oh,
with
yeah.
Granddad, I never really like, that doesn't contextualize him at all. It doesn't really inform what he does in the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like those couple episodes where we see Uncle Ruckus and like his past is like, oh, like it doesn't make me like that much more empathetic to him, I guess, like because he's still a terrible guy.
Yeah.
But like I get where he's coming from. You see where it started,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way that like puts him in context a lot better.
And it's technically not even his fault if it's both of his parents' fault.
Yeah, it's like he's kind of a victim of circumstance, and he just, it's both, because like I think you can have a character like that. It tells you a lot about someone, because like there can be what happens to them, and then it's how they react to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we, for most of the show, are just seeing his reaction, and then we see what he's reacting to.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in like a general sense, like sometimes people focus too much on the backstory and don't back it up enough, I guess, with what's happening. Like it doesn't feel as relevant as it should.
Mm-hmm.
Or they try to have the backstory do a little too much heavy lifting where they should maybe be trying.
Like an anime side character. This is just any anime side character where it's like, I grew up. They'll do an entire episode on a character, and it's like this person's just not even important to the story, but I guess we're gonna spend a whole episode on their origin. That's cool. I can't specifically point out any anime, but I'm sure it's been done a lot before.
Yeah, I haven't seen very much anime, so I can't help you there.
We'll change that.
I'm open to it. I just haven't seen very much of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a good counterexample though is like maybe John Wick. I want to say, like, I guess he doesn't have backstory, but like I feel like well, I don't know if he is a good example, because like I feel like maybe we need more backstory with him, where like we need to actually see. I think we see the dog, but what we don't see is his wife. Was what I was gonna say. Like, we don't. We see like one video clip, but like, and for that movie it works okay, but like,
I think it's downright hilarious. All it took was his dog dying for him to kill an entire mob.
Yeah, like, I think we have those on the list at some point, but the way they handle it, I feel like, is good for what it is, but not good for like other things.
Yep.
So it's interesting. But yeah, anyway, that was a big takeaway I had, was like how to handle like backstory. I think there's a lot of other stuff that has to go into it, but that can be I think if you want a good backstory, you just have to make sure that like you are showing those like the symptoms in the present with what's happening in your story. That's something that I think can be forgotten. So next topic is being emotionally true. There's not a whole lot of like technique to this. Just like my takeaway is just do that. Like I think it's one of the most important things a writer can do. There might be strategies to it, but not ones that I am able to articulate right now, I guess. It's one of the most important things you can bring to a script, I think. And like you can tell when it's fake, like when you're trying to imitate being emotionally true, but you aren't actually doing that. But at least in this, like Matt Damon feels like he's bringing a lot of himself into this movie because he wrote it and he's acting as the lead character. He's vulnerable. I feel like he's probably bringing a lot of like his own experience to it, but he's also like created someone that isn't literally him. Will is a unique character from him, which I think some people can't quite draw that line. But that's something that I thought made it like really brings this to the next level and makes it like so much more rewatchable. At least for other stuff I've found, like some stuff that I see like I like a lot at first, and then as I rewatch it, I'm like, like it's not as good this time. Like jokes kind of get old, or like action scenes a few years later look kind of bad compared to what we have now. And then like if there's a really good plot twist, it's only going to shock you once. Later it can be cool to go back the next couple times, but like it's really only going to hit you one time. But like if you have something emotionally true, I find that it makes things so much better to rewatch, because like some stuff that I even have like memorized, I can go to and still get something new out of it every time, even if like I know every line in it. There's really no replacement for it. So I think it's a very good strategy. Did you have anything on that?
I agree with that last point. No matter how many times I've seen certain movies or scenes, it might not hit me like the first time I saw it, but the emotion remains present. Like Spider-Verse, Endgame, well, the last third act of Endgame, etc. I wish I had a non-comic book movie example, but Spider-Verse, like that movie is hits me different. It's different, bro. I've only seen it twice. Once in theater when I dressed up as Miles, and then once with my dad and brother on Netflix. And I saw a YouTube clip of it comparing I think it's either 12 or 24 frames per second what they filmed it or animated it like, and then there was a side-by-side comparison where what it would look like with 60 frames per second. Don't know why they didn't go with 60 frames per second, because it looked clean as hell. But just watching that scene, it was with Miles and Peter B. Parker when they went to Doc Ock's lab.
Is it when they're swinging through the trees?
Yeah, it was that the scene before that, and then right after when they got caught and Doc Ock was coming after them. Then Gwen showed up. It ended when Gwen showed up. But that just rewatching that scene made me want to rewatch the entire movie again. So yeah, emotions.
Yeah, I find something else that works with for me is the Harry Potter series, mostly the books. But like I've read those several times each, but like I can come to it with like a different life experience as like an adult than I did as a kid. And like there's certain things that like I'll appreciate more, or just like because like the characters in that are created with so much care, you can identify with certain ones at different points. That really is something that you can't fake. I know it's a very dead horse at this time, but everything that we hated on the Raimi trilogy for, I feel like this does in spades. All the thematic stuff that it's trying to do, it can't, because the writers are trying to imitate something. They're not really bringing themselves to it. That'll transition us nicely into the next topic, because we've talked a bit about some relationships on the show that we do not ship at all. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I think the characters in this movie are like very shippable. Do you ship them? Like Will and Skylar, Will and Sean, Will and Chucky? Those are the main three that I see.
Will and nobody. Will needs to be alone for some time and figure his stuff out before he can be shipped with anybody. I told you I don't like Will. Will needs to get his stuff together. But I ship Sean and whoever he'll meet in the future, because he said something about poker chips and putting them on the table and folding, and I don't know poker talk, but he said pretty much that he was going to get back into the dating scene. So Sean and whoever he'll meet, Will and nobody.
Not at all? You don't ship Will and Skylar at all?
No.
At all?
Nope.
Not even like before their fight?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I mean, I'm not
Uh,
gonna argue too hard with that because like it's your impression of it. I can't really disprove that. I do ship them.
was the wife farting scene improvised? Because their laughs seem genuine. I think I've seen it on a subreddit called Contagious Laughter before, and that scene there. Whenever somebody wheeze laughs, that's probably one of the funniest laughs I've ever heard.
Hmm.
Or like the tea kettle laugh, where it sounds like a
Hmm.
tea kettle's going off. But that's just yeah, that was hilarious though.
I think it is partly improv. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard like an from the set story where like I think they riffed a little bit and some of it was kept in and some wasn't. But like
Mm-hmm.
I think some of that is genuinely them laughing at something that one of the other ones improved. I think they might have something about it in the trivia section on IMDb. That's something we can get into now too, because I think improv is like something I wanted to talk about in this topic, like, with some of those moments where like it's just two people kind of hanging out, and there's a lot of those moments in this. There are parts that are improv, and like I want to say there were a couple parts of the script that like indicated like we're gonna allow for a little improv here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much as a writer you should rely on improv for that, but it is an important thing, like the characters' chemistry. And that was a question I had for you too, because like I know you've worked with scripts before, but like at least from what we've talked about, you do novels mostly where you don't have like you're not writing for actors, you're just writing the characters on the page. So like do you feel like there's something in like writing a novel where you can kind of substitute for improv that you would get with actors, or like maybe something that you can do within a novel that you kind of can't in both like play scripts and movie scripts? Like
I'd say it depends on the person reading it for the difference, because something novels can do that actors can't is going back and reading a line of dialogue in a different tone or manner.
hmm.
Because in movies, you obviously just get the one thing that the one way the line was said that the director chooses, unless it's like a montage of somebody saying the same thing over and over. But movies, like I said, only have it that one way. And the best way I'd say to imitate like the connections is like small scenes between characters, like moments that make them seem like an actor is playing them or can play them in this moment. It sounds straightforward and obvious, but the dialogue itself is also very important, like the words being said that would humanize the characters, and those small moments.
I feel like that's such a hard thing to do though. Like, well, I don't do
Mm-hmm.
as much with novels. I've like tried doing that a bit in the past, but not recently. But like
Mm-hmm.
even with writing scenes for actors, like I feel like it is hard to I mean imitating like real speech is something that you can do, but imitating that like chemistry I feel like is not easy to do at all.
I'd say one of my not go to, but one I just thought to suggest is having the characters like not argue but debate on a topic,
Hmm.
maybe a pop culture topic. I saw this done in The Babysitter. I didn't actually see the movie. I saw a video about like the kill count in the movie. Shout outs to the Dead Meat channel.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was between Samara Weaving and the main character, kid boy, that they were talking about like Predator versus some other horror icon, and they were like, no, this person would win. Nah, I'm definitely thinking this person would win. I think that's a good way to do it. It might not come off as the most natural way to do it, but I just think that's an example of at least trying.
Yeah, because that's like a conversation that like you could kind of like you because I think part of it is in those kinds of conversations you can have conflict, but you don't have the characters actually like being at odds with each other. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
enjoying each other, but they're also like there's something driving the scene.
Right. There was also another scene like that in another Dead Meat video I saw, which was Mayhem, which I didn't know was a movie. It looked interesting. Also with Samara Weaving, strangely enough. And Glenn, I forget his name, but Glenn from The Walking Dead. It was a very strange moment to have the scene, I think, because they were in the middle of an office that was trying to kill them, or the people in the office were trying to kill them. And they were across the hall from each other hiding, and like Samara Weaving was like holding a nail gun or something crazy, and they were like talking about like their top 3 favorite bands or something like that. So yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, something that I don't. This isn't exactly like similar to your example, and I'm not sure exactly like where this falls, but recently I watched the first 2 Before movies, Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, and those movies are basically just like Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy walking around. The first one's, I think, Vienna, and then the second one's Paris, and they're just like talking with each other the whole time, and like it's all about their relationship. And I don't know about the first one, but I saw in the credits for Before Sunset, they both had a writing credit on that movie. Like it was that the 2 of them and Richard Linklater. But that movie is literally just a continuous hour-and-a-half conversation between the 2 of them. It's kind of an extreme example, but also like it works. Like the 2 of them really feel natural with each other, and you like really can get invested in their relationship. But that's not something you're afforded in a lot of cases. One thing, maybe like, I don't know if this is something you use or you think is a good strategy, but one thing that novels at least can do that all forms of drama really can't is get in the character's head and like how they're thinking versus what they're saying. So I don't know if that works at all, because I mean, on the one hand, it is a tool that I think novels can use, but if you're talking about relationships, that is between 2 people. So you kind of need both sides of it, I guess, in that case.
It's difficult to do from a first person point of view for a novel.
At least if that's the only person you're showing the perspective of.
Yeah, very true. For me, I think I write in third person omniscient, because sometimes I'll mention what a character is pondering or thinking, but a lot of the times I won't say anything. I'll just explain what's happening. But the way I do that is I'll say it. What is the term for this? Like the says. It's like the verb of the dialogue. It's like he said or she stated.
You're saying like said versus shouted, or versus like,
so
the inflection. You mean?
Yeah, like I'll point out
quite what
that
the term for that is.
Yeah, I'll point out, for example, like, hey, I just got back from shooting this guy, and then I'll say so and so lied. So like, yeah, I toy with that if I'm not going to get inside their head. That's another thing you can't tell unless it's stated like in a book.
Yeah. Yeah, something just from a book that I'm thinking of, and I don't know if this is the best example because it's Gone Girl, and the characters in that turn out to have a very toxic relationship, but there's parts of the book where it's showing like the earlier days when like it was supposed to have been better, and it refers to like a lot of like touchstones between the 2 of them, where they have like a lot of phrases they use with each other, or like little gestures or that kind of thing. So maybe that's like a way to imitate it, but it is a hard thing to do. At least for what's done in Good Will Hunting. Some things that I think help with these relationships are, one, all the characters have at least a moment where they're vulnerable with each other. Will and Sean have a lot of those moments. And then like Will and Skylar have a couple, mostly in their fight. And then there's the big one with Will and Chucky with that speech of like, you know, the best part of my day is when I come see you and I hope you won't be there. I think that's important, but it's also important to have other moments where they are just kind of like hanging out. And we get that with Sean too. Like some of those things are like them kind of like being a little bit more vulnerable and deep with each other, but some of them are just them kind of hanging out. And same with Skylar. And then most of the movie is just like Will and Chucky are just kind of like, you know, chilling at the bar with the other 2 guys. And particularly with the two of them, I think the thing that sells it, and I didn't really notice it until this time around, but they really have each other's back. Like, there's that street fight that they get in, and Chucky's like, he's like immediately following Will. He doesn't really care what the guy did or why they're fighting him, but he's like, I'm on Will's side with this. It's just like, it's not even, they don't even have to say it. It's just default. And then in the bar, when Chucky and the other guy, the jerk from Harvard, are like about to have it out, Will steps in and is like there to take that guy down for Chucky.
Wicked smart.
My boy's wicked smart. Yeah. Also, like, time is another factor that I saw. Like, all these characters have multiple scenes with each other, and I don't think you can go with just one scene if you want a relationship. Like, you can establish a relationship in one scene, but to develop it, you gotta have at least a couple.
That's another thing where I don't ship Will and Skylar, because I didn't know how much time had passed since they first met to when
That's
she
fair.
said I loved you, because I had only they were like 3 scenes. I get you can't make the whole movie about them, or that wasn't the goal, but like they had like 3 scenes before they got to that scene, and I'm like, y'all have been dating for like 4 scenes. What the hell is this? I get why he's not saying I get why he's not saying I love you back. Like, what? Why?
Do you? I think he does. You don't?
What?
Like, that scene where they have their fight and she's like, I want you to tell me, to say that you don't love me. And he says, like, just stone cold, I don't love you. I'm like, oh, you do. You do. Like, I vibe with them.
God, Evan, what is this, man?
I ship them. I'm not gonna say that you have to, but I do.
I'm gonna respectfully and strongly disagree, and I dislike your point of view.
Okay. I mean, so I think your point is fair that, like, I don't know how long they have together. Like, there's not really a good sense of time for that. But I feel like there's enough work done that, like, when let's talk about this too. At the end, like, when he's driving off to California, like, do you think it's going to end well? My guess is you don't, but
No.
You don't.
No. She probably already has another boyfriend.
I would beg
and
to
his
differ.
name is Bill.
I would beg to
Bill
differ.
Stunting.
Well, maybe there's a reason there's not a sequel, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they vibed well enough. At the very least, whether you, like, as a individual viewer, ship them or not, because that obviously is, like, a personal impression, and I can't really, like, argue with that. But at the very least, I think the work was done in the script. So, like, that I will stand by.
I can see they tried. That's what I see. I see they tried. I'll give them.
I mean, at the very least, do you think it, like everything we said, hating on Peter and MJ and Will and Elizabeth,
God.
Can you at least concede that this...
Evan...
What?
Don't do this to me, man.
Sorry, I know it's a
Don't make me
dead
choose.
horse that we've been... Is it that hard
Don't
of a
make me
choice?
choose.
Come on! Like, I know this may not be your favorite, but, like...
Yeah, okay. It's better than those two, because those two...
I know it's not saying a lot,
like,
but...
Yeah, it's not saying a lot, but yes, it is better. If it makes you feel better, yes, it is better than both of those relationships you just mentioned.
But, like, also just from a craft perspective, do you feel like the work is done here in a way that it's not with the others?
I don't know how they could have done more. That's the only thing stopping me from saying, like, this is the worst ever. Well, it's not the worst ever, but, like, I don't know what they could have done to convince me otherwise that they were good together.
Okay, fair enough. I ship them, and you have a heart of stone, but we can agree to disagree.
No, we're just going to disagree.
We're just going to disagree. Okay.
The only thing I have for this next topic is yes, period. And that's my entire bullet point, so I'm going to let you take... You
okay.
Got this.
All right, I'll try to go through it quick then. So this next topic is I don't know if this is the best name for it, but I call it like lived experience as a theme. There might be a better way to say it, but like it's the thing that Sean talks about in his monologue to Will at the public gardens there.
That was
Is that
the
it?
monologue.
Some Boston person is gonna murder me for saying that wrong.
I thought it was
I don't
Fenway
know.
Park.
The Swan Boats. It might be the
Were
public. Boston Common. I think that's it. Boston Common.
I thought they were at Harvard.
No, I've been to that spot in Boston, though, so I should know what it is.
Oof.
Anyway, yeah, like that monologue and the way that, like, Will knows on paper, like, everything that's wrong with him. Like, he can diagnose himself, but he still hasn't internalized everything. Like, he can't move past his, like, emotional wounds and stuff. I think it helps that, like, Will is a really book smart person, and we see that he's got street smarts too. Like it's not like he's just book smart, but what he doesn't have is emotional intelligence, and that's something he can't really get in any other way except by like stepping out of his comfort zone and processing his past with Sean the way that he does.
Mm-hmm.
I think it delivers on that theme so well. I mean, the monologue is really iconic. Like that's been cited as one of like the greatest monologues ever, and I agree with that.
That monologue was fire.
The monologue is so good because he just like picks Will apart so well. He's acknowledging like you are brilliant. You know so much more than I ever will, but you have never been out of Boston. So there's a lot that you cannot know. And like I think Will
Because you read
gets
a
it.
book.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, you saw my painting and you think you know everything about me. And I think it's especially powerful too because in that scene when Will is taking apart his painting, he gets to Sean. Like Will thinks he is on top going into that monologue.
He gets freaking choke slammed into the window.
Yeah, we'll get into that moment in a minute. But that monologue, he just like takes down all of Will's defense mechanisms to a certain extent and is like, you are smart, you still don't know anything. It's also like, it's not just that there's that monologue, it's proven like subtextually in the whole rest of the movie, which that again kind of goes, I think that's just like what you should do with theme. Like you can have a moment like that, but you really got to back it up. And, you know, I think it's also amplified by like how insanely book smart Will is. And he gets it. He's not deluding himself. Like at the end, he kind of talks about like, oh, Will has like attachment issues and stuff. Like it's not like he's denying that he's got issues. But it still is like not enough. And I think there's some other like Amelie is another character that I think is really good in that sense, where like she kind of gets what's wrong with her, but it doesn't really do that much to like help her like grow from it. Yeah, this theme is just like, I don't know, I feel like it hits so much on like partly just what character arcs are all about, but like it's just so universal. Like for a like light example, just keeping it in context of this podcast, like the lesson I talk about in the Star is Born video, like I kind of stated that, I think for the first time whenever we did the Star is Born episode, so like almost 2 years ago now. Like when I stated that, the start with story thing, like, and don't focus so much on all these extraneous things, like I got that on a factual level at that point, but I think it took probably like another 6, maybe even 12 months to really understand what it meant to do that in writing something. And like it took a lot to really know what it meant to start with story. And I think there's a lot of like writing lessons that I've talked about on here that like I get on paper, but actually implementing them is a lot harder. I'm only mentioning it because I think it's like a good example of what this theme is talking about, that like knowing something on paper and then like actually internalizing it, there's like a huge difference between those. And I think this was a really good example of that.
Unless it's math. If it's math, that's different.
That might be different. I don't think I got far enough into math to say. I think maybe some mad high levels of math. There might be a little bit more of that when you're talking like all sorts of theoretical stuff.
I got to derivatives. I think that's the highest I got.
I don't know how high I got. I've blocked out like all of physics and
Yes.
what little calculus I
Yep.
did.
All of it. All of it.
Just give me enough math to do my taxes, and we'll call it a day.
Remember when teachers said you won't have a calculator at your side at all times, so they had us do stuff by hand, and now
Yeah,
damn, the thing I'm recording on right now has a calculator. So
yeah.
suck it.
Well, but even like in higher levels of math, it was like calculators were required at a certain point. I forget
Right. They were
exactly where
like,
the
you know
cutoff
what? They
is.
need the calculators for this. I can't even do this in my head.
Yeah, like if you want a career, also like if you have a career in math, it's not like you're gonna need like. I get it because like memorizing things is helpful. You don't want to be at, I don't know, the CERN laboratories or whatever and being like, oh damn, let's go back to the times tables there. Like, can't be doing that.
Right.
But
I mean, you can.
you
You
can. You're
can.
gonna get laughed out of the room, but
Hmm.
and you're gonna work a lot slower probably. But math is for other people.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on that topic?
I had yes and then a period, Evan. I didn't have anything on that topic.
All right, so now we'll move on to your favorite, Sean, as the mentor character.
Clearly the best character.
I think there are contenders, but I won't disagree. He's a really good character.
Will is trash.
I am more of a Will apologist, but I get it, I guess. But yeah,
Big trash.
with Sean, like I just really like how he kind of subverts like the mentor character trope
Hmm.
because mentor characters can be kind of frustrating sometimes where they're just like spitting wisdom with every line.
Holier than thou. Hmm.
Holier than thou, yes, absolutely.
You drink the dew from the leaf, but you have yet to see the tree.
Who says that? I haven't heard that.
I just made that up.
Oh,
I could be a
well, it
mentor,
was a
Evan.
very convincing imitation of a mentor character.
I could be a
Um,
mentor, Evan. I'm your mentor now.
I mean,
Call
that sounds
me.
sufficiently fake deep to be something that a real mentor character says.
That's exactly why I said that. Evan, call me sensei.
Nailed it, yeah. But yeah, he's like Sean is just like so much more grounded than most mentor characters.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
he's not shown as like all knowing or like perfect, and like he's got an edge to him. He's even got like his own arc in a way, like, and I don't think it's like a major one, but they give it a little time to it. You can kind of see. I mean, this was like my fifth or sixth time seeing this, but like this time around, I was kind of like feeling a little more of like, oh, he's not just using these examples with his wife as like teaching moments for Will. He's like still processing.
Hmm.
I kind of felt that a little bit more this time than I
It's
have.
like he was also in therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, I think that's part of what's so brilliant about it is that like Will calls him out too in a couple cases. And
Hmm.
he's got a lot better ways of deflecting, but like they make it a point to not make him perfect. And I just appreciate that so much because it can be
Hmm.
kind of frustrating to have that like Dumbledore kind of character who's just like clearly knows what this person needs to grow and is being like intentionally vague and stuff like that. That has always frustrated me.
You try to feed the cat milk, but the cat barks.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Um, there's, I feel like there are so many lines like that though. Dumbledore definitely has lines like that, and some of them are actually good, but some of them are. So let's talk for a minute about that moment you mentioned earlier when he chokes Will, or not chokes him, but like gets him in a chokehold.
Hmm.
I think that's a really important moment on a lot of levels, and I kind of didn't really think much of it prior to this time, but I think it's big because one, it makes Sean vulnerable right from the start. Like Will is pushing his buttons and he's not keeping his cool in the like not the first scene with him, but the first scene of the two of them interacting
Hmm.
that happens. And I think from Will's perspective, it's big too because like the way he like gets under the other shrink's skin, he's like they're like, "Oh, this is like I can't work with you." And like they're not really fighting back, they're just rage quitting.
Hmm.
And Sean, like I think it's also important that Sean isn't just talking back, like he's not just fighting back verbally. Like the fact that it's physical I think
Yep.
is really important, and
He
Will
he
respects
threatens his
that.
life. He
Yeah,
does threaten his life.
yeah. And there's no irony, no anything there. He doesn't even apologize for it later.
Nope.
Like he just does that and owns it.
I mean, I wouldn't apologize for that either. He warned him a couple of times.
Yeah, he did warn him a couple times. And like, yeah, if he doesn't warn him, then that's suddenly like, okay, he's just unstable.
Will was asking for it.
Will was totally asking for it, but I think Will also like it from Will's perspective, it's like, oh crap, like there are lines I cannot cross with this guy.
Mm.
Whereas he could walk all over the other therapists that he was talking to. The other thing with him, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with like the lived experience theme, he kind of is flexing that on Will a lot of the time. Like Will loves being the smartest person in the room, and in basically every other scene, like with every other character in the movie, he is. But with Sean, he is kind of on the lower tier in those conversations. If they were talking about math, Will could probably run circles around him. But
Mm-hmm.
when Will is trying to like combat Sean's points, Sean is always flexing his experience and like what he has done and what he knows that Will doesn't. And Will can kind of like deflect that a bit, but I think he's too smart to not realize that Sean is right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like what he does. Did you have more on him?
I was gonna say to your note about Sean being emotionally intelligent in ways Will isn't.
Mm-hmm.
I agreed with that point. He feels what Will doesn't have, and in a way, they're soulmates. Not romantic, but they complete each other
Yeah.
in that way.
Well, I think the line in the script during their, I think it's the "It's not your fault" scene. I think there's a line in the script that's just like, it's the two of them being father and son together.
Oh
Like it
God.
says something like that. The script wants us to ship them, I think. And I mean, mission accomplished. I guess we don't have to like get way into it, but like I think a big testament to a lot of the things we're talking about is that "It's not your fault" scene, like because it's like it's so simple. It's literally just two characters repeating the same words back to each other, but it hits like so hard. Like,
Dog, I don't know why.
well, but like that's kind of the brilliance of it. It's so hard to articulate it. It just hits. A lot of people I've heard cite that scene as like one of their favorite scenes ever. And I think it again goes back to like the point of being emotionally true in something. Like you can't have a scene of a character just going, "It's not your fault" a bunch of times and bringing people to tears. Like that doesn't just happen.
It almost got me. It didn't get me. No tears fell. It almost got me though. It was close. It was
It
close.
gets me pretty close a lot of times too.
Because I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean now I anticipate it, but it's a great scene. But again, it's like it has to be earned. There has to be so much context around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a like subtle brilliance. And I think the actors are part of that too. Like
Oh yeah, I don't think that's something that can be easily pulled off in text like a book.
mhm. Yeah, and it's in there. Like that scene is not improv, but like you can't do that with actors who are not worth their salt. Like you need two really good actors to pull something like that off. Did you have more on Sean as the mentor?
Nope. Best character.
So now we're into our last topic, which is the anecdotes or like the jokes. So I wanted to talk about this because like I feel like it's something that doesn't come up in a lot of movies, and there's a lot of anecdotes and jokes that are in this movie. So I wanted to kind of dig into like what their purpose is. A couple of them, I think they're there to show the characters connecting with each other.
Yeah, that's the only note I had. That's what I saw them as, just humanizing moments.
So like which ones do you think are the best examples of that, if you can remember them?
One I can think of is the wife. No, not the wife. The plane
Hmm.
one. There were a lot though. There was the one about I don't know if this one counts. The one about when Lambeau was asking about Einstein and whoever else he mentioned, and then he asked if the bartender had heard of him Bartender was like, I got no idea who you're talking about. I don't know if that counted as one.
I would count it. The one that I saw as the most like showing the characters connecting is the scene when Skylar meets Will's friends in the bar and Chucky has like his story and then Skylar comes back with her joke.
Oh God.
And well, that one, because like it's showing like this is their first interaction and like you can kind of see, I was looking for it this time because there's a couple lines about it in the script, but like Will is kind of like a little bit on edge in that scene, watching, like really hoping her joke is going to land so that like, but like by the end, you see that like between those two anecdotes, Skylar like vibes with Will's friends. And it's not like a super important scene, but I feel like that was why it was there.
Taking his girlfriend to meet the family.
Yep. The one you were talking about a minute ago, though, I think that's another purpose of them is that Lambeau and Sean use a couple of their anecdotes, both with Will and with each other, to prove a point. I think Sean comes back with a Unabomber tidbit to Lambeau's argument. The ones with Sean, I think a couple of them, like the plane one, he kind of flips that to highlight how Will's inexperienced. Like his first line after that is, "You've never been on a plane, have you?" And then his other ones with his wife, he's showing like, again, this is what you don't know. But like he's kind of doing two things there. He's proving a point and he's like being a bit more vulnerable with Will. He's like opening up to him in the hope that Will will respond in kind.
Oh, there was also the bar one, the baseball game, and they went to the bar instead.
Yeah, that's a big one, and that one's very much there to prove a point. But it's also like kind of a like I think part of it is that they're kind of like good little stories within themselves, which is kind of what anecdotes are supposed to be. To me, all of these anecdotes fit that bill of like they are like they can kind of exist within themselves, but they're not just there. The script actually opens with Chucky telling one of his stories, and it doesn't come up in the movie, and it doesn't really have any purpose there. So I think it's good that it got cut, but they had one, and that was like the very first scene was like him, Will, and the other two guys hanging out in a bar, and Chucky's just telling this story. And there's a couple other bits in the script too, like that they actually have lines in there, like in action lines that are like possible alternate anecdote here, or like Unabomber point. So it's like a place marker for like, we aren't married to this exact story, but we want something here that's gonna do this. Like there's a few points like that. Like Skylar's joke in the bar is different from the one in the script. It's like about this guy who frees a genie from a bottle, and his three wishes, he wishes for 3 limitless pints of Guinness. Is like that's her.
What?
I mean, that's not what I would wish for, but that's the point of the joke. No. I think I'm not going to defend it. That's just what's in there. But like that was an interesting writing thing that I think it does is like it doesn't matter what's actually being said here. So like they gave themselves like a couple options that they can mess around with and see which one works better. I was just interested in that because there are so many of them, and they're a big part of like what I know I remembered from this movie the first time was like most of the anecdotes were like kind of the thing that stuck with me, and like it's something that I don't see a lot in other things. Anything else you want to say about it?
Nah.
Anything on the accents?
Nah. It wasn't as I thought it was gonna be terrible to listen to because of the accent, but it wasn't. So
I mean, they're from Boston. They do a good job with it. Like,
sure.
I feel like they're good Boston accents.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the Boston accent. I didn't know if I could listen to an hour and a half of that.
Well, let me tell you, if you come up to a Westman family gathering, you will get your fill of New England accents.
Well, I guess I'll never meet your family.
Nope. But if you do, that's all you're gonna hear. It's gonna sound a lot like this. Park in the car.
Oh boy, because it's just gonna be a whole lot of no R having words.
Oh no, some have more though. You don't go to Harvard to study law. You go to Harvard to study lore.
No, oh my gosh. You're removing R's where there are R's, and then adding R's where there aren't any. Okay.
Or if you're really going hard with it, you're removing eyes where there aren't eyes.
No,
And you're putting
you
eyes where
sound
there aren't supposed to be eyes.
Australian, bro. What is this? I don't.
It's distorted.
Oh,
My boss is perfect.
oh boy.
This is a Harvard bar.
Was that the last topic? Let's
That
hop
is.
on out of this. I need to go wash my ears.
All right. Harsh.
I'm kidding.
Quick bit of sort of follow up. We got someone leave a review on iTunes for us.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, specifically on a review on Circle. So, username, I think the username is a very COVID relief. They said,
Oh my god.
great job on this one, guys. I started Circle a while back and I couldn't get into it. After listening to your analysis, I'm definitely going to give it a second chance. Thanks.
Word.
So, thank you for leaving that.
Shout outs to you, Mr. or Mrs. Relief.
Yeah, you can also leave reviews there. I think iTunes is the only one, or Apple Podcasts. I think they're the only one that lets you do that. But if wherever you're listening does it, then you can leave it there too. Upcoming episodes, our next one is going to be Space Jam.
You're damn right.
Yep. I just saw a trailer for the reboot recently
Oh no.
with LeBron.
I didn't
I
see the
guess they're
trailer.
planning.
I just saw, you know what?
It's not really a trailer.
Okay.
That might be the wrong word. It's a promo. It didn't show anything from the movie. It's just like, this is going to happen. I guess it's more of an announcement than
You
a trailer.
can't improve upon perfection.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what they do. I mean, I don't know. I might see it when it comes out.
Maybe Michael Jordan and LeBron will play with the Looney Tunes against Superman stars.
Who says that's who they're going to play against this time, though? We don't know who the opponent is.
Maybe
They might be playing against the Knicks.
It could be a team of cloned LeBrons.
I mean,
Got a
that's a possibility.
$1 million mind, Evan.
Is the one true LeBron better than all the copies?
You know he is, but how is he gonna handle it? With great skills with the rock, the basketball? I would think so.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he mutates into a cartoon like MJ did. But
Stretchy limb LeBron.
the effects will look better, at least in the new one, or I hope they will.
Oh,
Maybe I'm jinxing it, but
don't get your hopes up.
I would hope that 25 years later they're gonna have something better looking than they do. But
I want them to purposely make it as bad as it was in the 90s.
why though? That sounds like it might even be harder.
Space Jam.
I mean, parts of it look okay, parts of it do not. But that'll be the next one.
Is it called? It should be called Space Jam 2 Space Jelly.
2 Space, 2 Jam.
Space Peanut Butter.
I think there is a name for it. They have like a subtitle, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Space Biscuit.
But I know they do.
Jammy Jams.
But after Space Jam, we have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So we're gonna be doing the book and both of the movies in some combination.
Yep.
But that's coming up, so refresh your memory on both of those. Our video on Shrek is up on YouTube now.
Watch that. That Rogue One clip is undefeated.
Yeah, there's a bit of Rogue One shade. And if you've already seen it, thanks for watching. Our logo is by Kelsey Hendry. We have a Patreon where you can support us and hear about how much we don't ship everyone in the Spider-Man movies for $1 a month. And we'll be adding more patron-exclusive episodes to there. You can follow the show on Twitter at INTAnalysis18. And you can follow me on Twitter at Davos Watson. And where can people find you?
I don't be tweeting like that. Follow me on Twitter at Jelani T. Kelly. I'm on Instagram at Base Phoenix, where I post pictures of new characters I'm working on. I just finished drawing a character named Rose, who is a soldier turned goddess. Interesting. Yeah, I know. I have a Twitch, JBase Phoenix. That too.
All right. Until next time, we got to go see about another episode.
Yep. And
That was a really bad reference to end it with.
stay wicked smart.
Stay wicked smart. Stay out of the Harvard bars.